Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers video, this one fresh for patch 12.3, and just as you thought the jungle meta was going to be consistent for a while, Riot has gone and reworked and changed all the fighter itemization, although the shift that you think might have happened did not. Although there are some nice changes in the general meta, a lot of it is due to lack of item optimization. And remember, if you want to learn how to master your champions and itemize appropriately and learn everything else about the jungle, we do have a 1 week long bootcamp coming up at the end of February. A week full of lectures about the jungle from yours truly, learning how to play every single jungling style and what to do to carry in every scenario. Valarius will help you with your clears and other super knowledge. Nice will explain to you lane states and how to control minions in relation to your laner so you don't screw them over repeatedly, and lots more. Sign-ups for that will be in the description and the pinned comment. And as always, if you do enjoy these videos, please consider leaving a like and of course subscribing. And now, without further delay, let's begin. And first up, you will see Diana, and that's obviously because she's not affected whatsoever by the fighter item changes and can carry on farming, skirmishing, and scaling better than almost anyone else. That cadence and tempo with which she actually clears while providing strong counter ganks, strong rotational capabilities, and honestly, if the enemy jungler commits to high variance jungling, you know, really aggressive ganking, low farming, Diana's just gonna say, well, thanks for those camps, let me counter gank you a few times, and now I'm 3 levels ahead. This just gives her, along with her core itemization, whether you're a Nash's Tooth gamer or simply a Protobelt Zhonya's gamer, so much agency and of course by extension pressure on the map even when she isn't seen. Because you know when she isn't seen, she's power farming, and then you don't quite know where she's gonna show up, especially if it's a good Diana who pays attention to solid pathing practices. And even though her CC is tied to her ultimate, her kit has everything you could possibly need to smurf in the jungle. And obviously second on the list for that reason is going to be Kha'Zix. While he doesn't exactly have CC, one could argue that evolved 90% slow on the W would qualify as such. The damage he provides from the lethality build path is just absolutely obscene. You have a lot of map control because at the core of it is the ability to remove, destroy, and annihilate enemy junglers at will. Obviously you need good pathing practices, you need to understand your combos and mechanics, and for this reason he is not that forgiving if your positioning is just terrible. And that's why I've removed the low elo badge, because I honestly don't think you should be playing this champion in low elo. I think if you're looking to learn how to be an assassin jungler and carry in low elo, a more forgiving champion such as the Shadow Assassin Blue Cane build would be a better option for you. Nonetheless, if you prefer a bit more of that absorption and healing damage, New Death's Dance, which I'll be talking about a lot, is going to be something really spicy. Should you want to go that route, it is more viable now than it was in the previous patch because of the direct AD buffs to things like Gore Drinker, and because of the AD ratio shifts on the Death's Dance, buffing it, and of course on the Hex Trigger, buffing it. It means that you can really heal and deal a lot of damage, and of course shield yourself as well. I also think an item that's being a little bit slept on is Ravenous Hydra, so your Assassin Kha'Zix is good to go, as well as your Bruiser Kha'Zix. And Rek'Sai is just looking absolutely primed and juicy for those who just want to close games out and get elo like it's no one's business. Remember, you are still going Prowler's Claw into your Edge of Night, but now with Steric's Gauge removing all the AD and only buffing base AD, yes, it can work. Yes, if you need survivability from that shield, it will be nice. The shield does decay, but it's still good. However, might I bring your attention to Death's Dance? Yeah, you still have the armor component, but the passive now is for both magic and physical damage, which means it's a great item to use no matter what. The healing from the AD ratios with your Prowler's Claw Edge of Night build will be absolutely obscene. If you are against a heavy magic comp, now all of a sudden, Hex Drinker into more of my Mortiers is just as viable. Follow this up with a GA, and of course you can slot in the Sterix if you feel you need the survivability. Not only is Rek'Sai a demon of closing games early with those huge leads, she's also basically unkillable. Following Rek'Sai, we have the Demon from the Abyss, Shaco, not always the best choice objectively, but does perform extremely well in solo queue. The cheese factor and of course the fact that the enemy jungler has to respond to you and react to you properly means that he just has always that mental edge early. Obviously later on isn't really much of a champion, and Rek'Sai is a very nice direct counter. But nevertheless, he is basically joining that fiddlesticks class of, you know what, the rest of the meta can change, your items can shift, I'm gonna carry on doing what I do best, my unique style of jungling that no one really understands, and carry on getting those wins. Yeah, I'm putting Viego here, and you would have noticed I'm also putting Hecarim here. I'm gonna address something very quickly. Initially, everyone was building Kraken Slayer on his release. Then people realized, hold on, Divine Sunder is actually turbo super good. And then you know what they did? Well, they said, this is way too much, this is absolutely stupid. His base healing from the passive 8% to 3%, which means you got rewarded significantly more for going full damage, especially in terms of healing. It took me months on these Best Junglers videos to basically say, guys, go Shieldbow, go Shieldbow. But now they've nerfed that, and even though they've nerfed Divine Sunder's health and added a little bit of AD and made the atomization spike better with a Coalfield's Warhammer, they are still the suboptimal atomization. 2 words, Kraken Slayer. Try it. Also, wait, another item, Blade of the Ruined King. He is the Ruined King, he owns the blade, which is greatly disproportional to its purpose, but you know, if its purpose is to kill you, then it does its job, and all of a sudden that's also just been randomly buffed. Good items on him. And stop going second item Sterex. They changed it. Your base AD isn't that high that you can go at second. Viego's win rates on those items that I've said are really, really good. Please don't let this be another 6-month elaboration where I have to keep reminding you to stop going Sterex second. His win rate is bad, but that's because the itemization is bad. Adapt, optimize, and his win rate is once more good. And if you didn't have your fill of edgelords, Kane is here, and because Ross is basically saying, you know what, that Death's Dance, that buffed Gore Drinker AD, even though we lost HP, don't really care, didn't ask. Yes, he is super thriving. He loves it, he's doing well. Shadow Assassin Kane always does well, especially in lower elos. You're also looking at Sterex Gauge with insane survivability, but honestly, that more of my Mortius, Death's Dance, Gore Drinker, really looking like good items for him. I haven't yet tested the Ravenous Hydra, but I just want people to think deeply about it as a core item on things like Rust that have a lot of built-in sustain and can benefit not only from the AD ratios, but also the Omnivamp. Following the superior form Rust and the lesser form Shadow Assassin, we have the Horse. Yes, his win rate is the one that I'm most worried about, and he might continue to dip, but that's also because optimization of itemization hasn't yet been achieved. The Chem Tank Manamoon build has now been nerfed 2 patches in a row. The Phage shift from Divine Sunderer definitely didn't help him, but he likes Caulfield's Warhammer anyway. And I'm gonna say once again, the keyword here is yes, you can run Sterex, but Death's Dance. Huge item will definitely suit him very well. I feel like Trinity Force's nerf for the added HP wasn't really worth it. I like the fact that it was more of a DPS focused fighter item, but the Hecarim video released early in the week, that build will still be good to go. The Challenger player who's in that video, I've linked his profile in the description of that video. Click it, follow him, see what he builds. He currently still loves the Chem Tank, but he's really enjoying a bit of that Death's Dance as well. Optimize and thrive. Following all of that nonsense fightery stuff that no one really cares about if you're a Fiddlesticks is Fiddlesticks. Farm it up in a way that no one can really match anymore. Use that surprise ultimate and your diverse itemization and rune path choices. And much like Shaka, make sure you are using your surprise factor and unknown factor in terms of enemies' understanding of what your champion does to really pressure them into making mistakes and just being in positions where you can capitalize with your AoE ulti. And obviously remember, good amount of patience if you're being invaded. Just try and farm as best you can, use your FRGs, ward as best you can, and then look for those juicy lane counter ganks. Next up, we go to the A tier page, and Xin Chao is at the top because you want to know why. Well, Gore Drinker, nice, was a good item on him, it still is a good item on him, but Death's Dance second is absolutely obscene in the win rate department. There are those of you still going Sterex, fine, but Death's Dance, whoo, that win rate's a little unnatural, so make sure you are having that good pressure, either your 3-camp action, your level 2 gank if you wanted, 3-camp, 5-camp, full clear, whatever you need to do, the champion can do it. And obviously the best factor here is that you snowball almost better than Rek'Sai. Not quite, but almost. But with all these tanks being basically diversified into your more HP stacker unkillables and your more damage dealing annoyance, Nuna's win rate is spiking quite well. Why? Well, I'm a tank, which means you can't kill me and I can't kill you, but I do more in teamfights than you do. And if you're full damage, well, I can absorb it and now I can actually kill you because I'm Nunu. Following Nunu and his ganking shenanigans, we have Echo. The leader of the counter gankers has decided also likewise that these fighter itemization changes, yeah, I don't really care for them either because I have the new Lich Bane, I have all the AP I've always had, and while the meta is still good for full clearing and sequencing junglers, it's still better for those who are looking for action, and honestly with Echo, that's great for his clear speed, which isn't the fastest, and just being in a position to capitalize and snowball, it's beautiful because if you do happen to have some vegetables on your team, it really doesn't matter because you can offset the map pressure by split pushing and basically forcing rotations where you can kill them all anyway, and if there's a really fed Jinx on the other side, you can make her hate her life, which is good because that's what we want to do. Following Echo, and as you would have seen on the gameplay channel, Nocturne once more exists. Now, you can go your more fightery itemization comps in terms of your Sterex, which does work well with him, but we do like the Axiom Arc, we do like the Stride Breaker. However, things like Death's Dance, more of a Mortius can actually work on him, so try them out and see how they feel. But for a champion like him who really wants to dive bomb the backline, having the new Sterex, even though it doesn't really give you that AD, the surviving shield is really something super huge because with Stride Breaker and Axiom Arc, you can one-shot people anyway. It's nice to see him back. Well, not if he's on the enemy team, because then you just, don't. And I debated, should I put Warwick back on this list? Should I put Warwick back on this list? Because they nerfed Divine Sunderer, but even though the HP is down, the AD is up. And honestly, the original Warwick players who know from my videos that we like to run Warrior quite frequently back in the day, yeah, having the Caulfield's Warhammer in the build path is something mighty, mighty fine. The damage on your way to completing Divine Sunderer for the Hydra penetration into your Titanic Hydra, into your tank if you wish, and you of course can go Sterex Gauge for added survivability. I think people do need to learn how to play around this new itemization in terms of power spikes and different components, but overall he is still an exquisite choice for most of you to learn how to climb from the jungle. You might think, listen, why is Graves here? His win rate's 49% and he has a 10% pick rate, which means it's not even that great. And while I'm not really afraid to face a Graves, if I'm facing Canyon on Graves, I'm crying and wetting myself. If I'm facing a really good jungler on Graves, you can easily be smurfed upon. And likewise, if you're a good jungler and good on Graves, the win rate is not your concern and you can still completely take over the map. Graves is best in this particular form. If his win rate's above 50%, usually he's OP. He's good like Lee Sin when he has a 49% odd win rate because of how oppressive he can be. And currently, he can still be very, very good. Following the Cigar Man, we have Kindred. Now, Kindred really doesn't need Blade of the Rune King to do very well, but in this age of, new Sterex buyers and a lot of HP stacking fighters and, some new tanks running around like Zax and Nunus, that Blade of the Rune King does work just fine. Don't need it, but it can do, and of course it was buffed as well. This means because of a lot of people trying out fighter itemization incorrectly, and obviously Kindred being a ranged snowballing champion, you can really exploit the inadequacy of the opponents that you're facing, and you should do so with relentless aggression and abuse. And finally, we have Zac, whose win rate has once more spiked again. The world was kind of difficult for tanks like Zac and Nunu because even though they were still very strong, why would you go them when you can go something just as tanky almost that can sustain and then one-shot backlines? Now that diversification is in progress and Riot are focusing on separating fighters into A and B, there is no better tanky disruptor, HP stacking, annoying, perma-ganking, bot lane smurfing jungler. And it helps that his team fighting is absolutely godlike. So, look for your farming, look for your ganking, and irritate some ADCs. Following the A tier page and the general tier list, we head to the low elo page and you will notice something shocking and surprising. Yes, Amumu is on the thumbnail, but it's really a pity thumbnail because he was nerfed. They removed his innate tankiness growth, and basically if you're going Sunfight to Demonics, now you're significantly more squishy. That means Nunu is technically the best performing tank in low elo, along with your things like Zac, and you'll notice Master Yi is still here, Nocturne, Trundle, all still good to go, Diana. Vi is doing super well because of the fact that the Caulfield's Warhammer in Divine Sundra suits her scaling very nicely, and the buffed Chem tank has suited Volibear in absolutely the most beautiful way. I'm currently working on some revised tech for the fighter itemization build as well as some hybrid builds, so stay tuned on both channels. I might be releasing something shortly. And finally, the high elo page. Now, of course, Deathstar's being very good on Rengar along with Ravenous Hydra means his win rate is spiking juicily, but not quite enough to be the best of the best. However, Diana, Rek'Sai, Nidalee, Gwen is the one that Canyon is loving in Korea. I made a video about this last month, it popped off. That's because he's popping off on it, and it's basically difficult to ignore if you watch high elo content. For your regular gamers, I don't really recommend it, but it's still performing quite well for everyone. Same thing with Kiana. She is definitely doing better this patch than last patch, but obviously way better in high elo. The Kayn, the Xin Shao, the Echo, staples in high elo at the moment as well. Viego and Hecarim are absolutely fine and still very, very strong champions. It just seems in high elo they are being more exploited without the optimization of their items. However, keep in mind, they're still good in this area. I just wanted to highlight Gwen and Kiana as well. And there you have it, all the best junglers for patch 12.3 and the fighter changes along with some good discussion. Let me know in the comments what builds you are enjoying, and hopefully in the next patch, we'll have a better idea of where the meta sits once people have figured out the best way to build these champions. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something. Please do like, share, and comment if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the content in general. Don't forget to have a look and see if the bootcamp is for you. I hope to see many, many of you there. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.